Welcome to Living the Smarter Science of Slim, where we provide a scientifically proven lifestyle for long-term health and fat loss by eating more and exercising less, but smarter.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that.
Hey everyone, Jonathan Bailor here, back with another bonus Smarter Science of Slim podcast. Really excited for today's show. Have a wonderful, sassy, bubbly, registered holistic nutritionist, culinary consultant, living network television show host of Peggy's Kitchen Cures, and the author of the upcoming Kitchen Cures book, and someone with just an awesome name, which I hope to God I pronounced correctly, which is Peggy Kotsopoulos. Peggy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And you said my name perfectly.
Woohoo! So I'm just going to call you Peggy and leave the last name off from this point forward.
Yeah, everyone usually goes by Peggy K because everyone butchers the last name, but you said it perfectly.
Oh, well, and I love it too because your website actually acknowledges this because your website is peggyk.com. So.
Yes, exactly. No one would come to my site if I made them spell my last name.
I love it, Peggy. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on was you have quite an interesting story doing the corporate investment thing and then evolving into the more nutrition and wellness side of things. So can you tell us a bit about your professional evolution in this field?
Yeah. So I started off in investment banking. I spent 7 years doing that. And while I was very good at it, my passion was always food and nutrition. So growing up, I grew up in a Greek family. Obviously, you can tell by my last name. And it was all about food. And I was always taking my family's recipes and trying to make it healthier. And I just had an awareness from a very young age of how what I ate made me feel. So while I was in investment banking, we would have these breakfast meetings in the mornings and they would have bagels and danishes and, muffins. And I'd come in with my own breakfast and everyone's like, what are you eating? What are you doing? But come 3 o'clock in the afternoon while everyone's doing their coffee runs and falling asleep, behind their computers, I was always energized and, I always felt great. And everyone's like, what are you eating? What are you doing? So one by one, people would come into my office asking for nutrition advice. And at the time I was not a nutritionist. It was just a passion of mine. It was something that I've been studying my whole life, but not professionally. And so I started doing lunch and learn. So I said, you know what? Everyone was coming to my office. I said, I can't even do my day job. I'm like, I'm going to book the boardroom. Yeah. I said, I spent most of my time giving you recipes and all this kind of stuff. So I said, you know what? I'm going to book the boardroom for anyone who wants to know what I'm eating or what I'm doing. Come to the boardroom at noon on Friday at noon, and I will do a lunch and learn, and I will do a food demonstration. So I'd show them how to make healthy snacks at work and what to eat for breakfast and all these kind of things just to boost their energy. So this one lunch and learn for my department turned into a corporate-wide wellness program. So I would have people signing up. We would fill up classes every other Friday, and I would do these lunch and learns. So keep in mind, I was an investment banker during the day, and it was just like one part of my day. Every other Friday, I would do these lunch and learns, and that's what I loved to do. That was, that's what I was excited about going to work for. And I was actually going to take another job at another investment firm. And before I left my current job, I had all this vacation that I had taken because they work you to the bone in, corporate wellness. I mean, in a corporation in general. So I took my vacation and I went down to California and I did a culinary arts course in whole food nutrition just for fun. So I went down for 4 weeks. And before I started this new job, and I loved it. I felt like I was in my element, and I thought, I can't imagine doing anything else for a living than this. And I didn't even think about doing it for a living. I always thought it was too late. I could never change. I could never go back. But what I realized at that point is it's never too late. So I said, you know what? I'm going to give myself a year. And if it doesn't work out, I can always go back into investments. So I came back from this trip, and I left my current job and I turned down the job that I was supposed to take. And I said to them, if I take this job, I'll be very successful, but I'd rather be significant. I want to know that what I'm doing is making a difference in other people's lives, because if I can feel this way by eating certain foods, everyone can feel this way. And I just felt like I had this mission that I wanted to share. And so I had no idea what I was going to do. All of a sudden I left my job, and there was this course that kept coming up. There was this trip. It was called, I remember it was a healthy adventure trip. And I literally thought I was going to be like rock climbing and kayaking and swimming with dolphins and stuff. Meanwhile, I go down to, it was in West Palm Beach. I get there and I realize it's a health conference. So they had experts from all over the world talking on the area of health and wellness and nutrition. And I met this man. I remember I was in the shuttle from Miami Airport going to the Keys, and he was probably in his mid-60s. And I'm like, oh, so what brings you to the Strip? Little did I know what it was really about. And he's like, well, he goes, a year ago, he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. He went through chemo and radiation and all this, types of stuff. And the doctor said, there is nothing we can do to heal you. What you have to do is go home, get your house in order. And you're basically going to die. Like, there's nothing we can do at this point. And this man at that time said, forget this. I'm going to try to heal it myself. And by changing his diet and lifestyle and everything, like his mindset, a year later when I met him in that shuttle, his cancer was almost gone. And so then I get to this conference and I meet 250 other people who had reversed cancer, diabetes. One guy was supposed to go for quadruple bypass surgery, and he ended up clearing his arteries through diet and lifestyle. And I thought, at the end of this, I said, I need to make this message mainstream. What do I need to do? So I went back to school and I did my health educator certification in West Palm Beach, Florida. So I ended up staying. I thought I was going to go there for a week. I ended up staying for 6 months. And so I ended up doing my training, and then I went back to school and became a nutritionist. So it was a total life transformation, and it's scary, but it's the most rewarding and most fulfilling thing ever. And I love every single second of what I do.
Oh, well, Peggy, that's just an awesome story, and certainly the passion for making a difference and helping individuals on a much deeper health-related, emotional-related level is certainly something I can empathize with. And I want to dig in a little bit because I love that you come from the corporate world, especially from investment banking, because I want to get your opinion on, certainly in investment banking and in other corporate and professional cultures, we're dealing with such intelligent people. These are people that are clearly have very high IQs, but somehow this knowledge of just drinking 5-hour energies, drinking cappuccinos, eating danishes and muffins, and running yourself into the ground, like that's not a very smart thing to do. So why is there this disconnect between professional wisdom and health wisdom?
I think what it comes down to for most people is education and time. So when you're working 12 hours a day and you have a million things going on in your life, you just want the quick fix. You're not thinking long term. You want an immediate solution. So that's why people are running for coffee. People are, doing the quick breakfast on the go. They're running through, drive-throughs or, the coffee shops, grabbing a coffee, grabbing a muffin because it gives them their, I had breakfast. The first thing is like, everyone hears that they have to eat breakfast. And they're like, well, I ate breakfast. I had a muffin. I'm good. A muffin is a cake in a cup, right?
It's breakfast cake, as I like to call it.
Yeah, it's cake in a little muffin cup. If it makes you feel better calling it a muffin, good for you. It's a cake. And so I think it's the two things. But what I realized when I was doing it is if you're eating, you have the choice to eat healthy or unhealthy. And because it takes the same amount of time. It doesn't take more time to eat healthy. There's so many things on the marketplace now that you can do. Like you can do a smoothie in the morning for breakfast. All you do is throw all this good stuff into a blender, take it to go. That's going to give you way more energy, way more fiber throughout the day. And you're not going to have those midday crashes where you're constantly going to have to keep fueling yourself with caffeine and sugar and caffeine and sugar. So it's just by making that one change in the morning, people feel better. And they're like, you know what? I don't need my coffee in the afternoon. So it's just starting by making one change. It's not overhauling your diet completely. It's not, and it doesn't take too much work. It's trying to find how it fits into your lifestyle.
Peggy, and I think you hit the nail on the head there because so often people see nutrition as this either or. Either you are eating just garbage or it's this pure, no exceptions. You're either at a 0 or a 100%. But what you mentioned there, people might have heard and say, well, she's saying it takes as much time to eat healthfully as it does eat unhealthily. Well, that's not true because, I have to make all this food and yada, yada, yada. Well, maybe that person is creating a false dichotomy in their brain where there is eating, for example, maybe the way we did 50 years ago, which certainly was not people being certainly focused on every calorie they took in and all this and that and the other thing, but they were eating food rather than processed garbage. And if we just make that move to food, that doesn't take that much more time, if any, and it doesn't cost that much more. And the results are dramatic, are they not?
It's true. It's true. It's just the small things. Like, for example, instead of having, a high sugar granola bar or, something from the vending machine as a snack, I mean, have an apple. Like, it takes, it's portable. You can take it with a little, a little container of raw almonds you can have as a snack. Even meals, like, you can get healthy meals and healthy foods anywhere. Like, when I travel a lot, so people are like, well, how do you eat healthy on the road? It's actually really easy because there's always healthy choices on a menu. And even if you don't see exactly what you want on the menu, if you see foods that you like on the menu, you can create it and put it together.
And that's the key. And Peggy, I think that's the key distinction is oftentimes it's that idea of healthy versus perfect. And that is a key distinction, right? Like, if you go to McDonald's, you probably can't find too much perfect food there, but you can certainly do things that won't kill you.
Exactly. And it's not all an all or nothing thing. And that's what I say to clients that come see me. And using that McDonald's example, if they're eating McDonald's 7 days a week, I can't tell them to stop eating McDonald's 7 days a week. I'll be like, why don't you try going there 3 days a week? And instead of ordering this, you can order this instead. Or instead of having fries with your burger, try having a salad with it. Or, I don't know what's really on the menu these days, but it's just making those healthier changes wherever you are. So you can do it. It's really simple.
And it's really a matter also, Peggy, I think, of acknowledging, and you can tell that you work with clients on a day-to-day basis, and because you have this very practical message, because a lot of people, I'm sure you and I, we like to geek out on nutrition. We think it's fun. It's like a little science experiment for us, but especially for individuals who are really busy with their family or really busy with their job, this is so secondary to them, right? They're just like, I want to focus on other things, not to focus on this. So if you force me to focus on it, I'm just going to turn the other direction. So how do we give people the tools they need to be healthier without turning them off because it seems like another full-time job?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I think everyone has different needs too. And I don't think there's a diet that fits everyone, or they don't have to give up their favorite things. I mean, I told you about this book that I have coming out pretty soon, so the end of the month, the end of August. And the way I wrote the book is it's very approachable. And so the way I did it was every chapter is on a certain element. So one is on energy, one is on stress, one is on beauty, one is on muffin tops, one is on, if you gain weight in your butt and thigh area, like your buttocks, I like to call it. It could be skin, it could be digestive issues. So basically, if you're lacking energy, so if we stay with the energy chapter, if you go to that chapter, it tells you why you're lacking energy. So it gives you that education in a very short, easy to understand way. And then it tells you, okay, here are the key nutrients that you need to be energized, and here are the top 5 foods that have it. So you can actually just make small changes like that. So you don't have to change your entire diet. You don't have to change your entire lifestyle, because once you start changing just a few small things, you're going to notice a difference. And once you notice that difference, you're never going to want to go back to the way you were before. So it's just going to happen naturally. I never have to, if somebody's at point A and I want to get them at point, C, I don't tell them about point C. I'm like, try B first, or, and it's just because once they try B, they're going to want to get to point C. So I don't even have to do any work at all. And everyone is different. Everyone will find what works for them and what does not work for them.
Peggy, I think that's a very profound distinction. And often I'm sure you hear this as well, where people say, either with eating healthfully or exercising, people say, well, how do you have time to do that? And once you transition from the dark side, let's call it, I often find the most accurate response to that question is, I don't have time not to do it. Meaning, so I also know what it's like to work in the corporate world, and to try to do anything with dedicated mental effort for 12 hours a day requires optimum health to truly do it at your best. So once you experience this healthier version of yourself, to take, even if it does take a little bit more time, let's say hypothetically, even if it took an additional half hour, the 11 and a half hours you can work now at 100% will accrue you more success than working 12 hours at 60%.
Yep. And you know what I used to do when I was working, I still do the same. I'm a morning person, but before work, I would just get up. You can get up an hour earlier, go straight to the gym, out of bed, go straight to the gym. Don't even think about it. Or go for a run. And then you get ready and you go straight to work. And the amount of energy you're going to have is amazing. Even a half-hour workout during your lunch break, even going outside for a brisk walk. The energy you're going to get from that, You're going to want to do it all the time. You're going to feel so good that it is going to become a habit, whether you like it or not. It's just starting for a lot of people.
And also those simple steps. I think that is so. I often draw the analogy to in the last American presidential election, there was this talk of the 1% versus the 99%. And I sometimes fear that in the area of health, that is starting to happen, meaning that there's this 1% that like really, really wants to get dialed in with their health. And they're all about just like organic, local, which is all awesome. Like that's awesome. And if you're into that, that's great. But then you have the 99%, which the 1% sort of loses, becomes so disconnected from the 99% that they're telling you, do this, do Z. You're at A, do Z. Yeah. And it's just like, I can't. But if you get me to B, and then I can get to C. I was talking with a gentleman by the name of Ray Heinisch, who's a brilliant a host of, I think, the #1 rated health show on iTunes. And he was talking about if you want to learn to floss, here's what you should do tonight. Floss one tooth.
Yeah.
Floss one tooth for a week. And then pretty soon you'll start flossing 2 teeth. And it won't even seem like an issue, right?
But that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Because, I mean, you're going to lose people along the way, right? I always realize you have to meet people where they're at. So it's about making, like I said, the McDonald's analogy. If you're going 7 days a week, try going 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. And then, instead of fries with your burger, have a salad or something like that. Or instead of the pop, have a water. Like just that, instead of a soda, have a water. So something that simple. And but going back to stress, like going back to work stress and all that kind of stuff, I think that is one of the biggest factors when it comes to health. Because when I was in investments, I was stressed to the gills. And yes, exercise helped, and I ate so clean then. I was like, that 1%. I think I've laxed since then a little bit, but I was so strict on my diet and I ate so clean, and I worked out all the time. And because it was my, it was kind of like my gateway, it was my out. From that intensity, and but what happened? What I realized was I was not healthy, and I didn't understand this when so when I quit my job and I went to back to school to become a nutritionist, I had a blood cell test done, and it's a spectra cell test, and they look at every single vitamin, mineral, antioxidant level in your blood, and my antioxidant levels were at 27%. 100% is perfect. 60% is when they have maybe a little bit of concern. But the average is about 70. I was at 27. I didn't understand. They called me at the office and they said, we're really concerned about your health. And I'm like, I don't get it. I'm the healthiest person I know. I eat so clean. I work out all the time, but my body was so stressed that I was not absorbing any nutrients. So I think it doesn't eat like food is just one aspect of it. And exercise is just one aspect of it. There's a whole lifestyle that we have to think about first. And it's making time for yourself and really, relaxing and managing that stress.
Well, and it sounds like it's also about a clarity of goals, because in addition to focusing on things outside of just eating and exercise, oftentimes when we get back to this either or, both and diametrically opposed health versus not health perspective, which is inaccurate, much of the health information, I'm curious to get your sense of this, is directed, for example, if you want to have 6-pack abs, one, that is not synonymous with health. Yeah, and two, sure. A lot of people don't actually want that or need that. If they had to choose between having 6-pack abs and having a great relationship with their friends and family and professional success, they'd probably take the latter. So again, what is the difference between pursuing health and a broader sense of wellness in your lifestyle and pursuing looking like that professional fitness model you see on the infomercial ad?
Yeah, so I would take the first one. And studies even show, like just going to that example, there's a study showed that hanging out with your girlfriends, so as a girl, hanging out with your girlfriends is better for your heart and your health and reduces stress more than exercise, like significantly more than exercise. So it's about having that whole lifestyle. So it's not about, because you know what, those 6-pack abs, I mean, I've had them at one point, and that's when I was very unhealthy because I was exercising way too much and I was eating not enough. I was not eating the right foods and I wasn't having that balance and I was stressed out. So it's about really, I think optimal health is balance. It's not 6-pack abs. If you get them, great. You know what I mean? Like, good for you. But I think the priority should be well-being, really.
Absolutely. And I think it's a great maybe analogy where what we're talking about here with a 6-pack abs is maybe analogous to being able to shoot 10 free throws in a row perfectly, or doing some other very specific skill where it's like, if it's a hobby, or if you like to knit very, very well, like that's you can do that, but you don't knit to improve your health, and you don't necessarily go box to improve your health, because you might be active, but it may also cause some neurological damage. And if you want to work to have six-pack abs, that might be all right, but some of the things you do for health are not synonymous to what you would do for that hobby.
Exactly. 100%.
Well, Peggy, tell me a little bit about how we can, in the corporate world. One thing I've noticed just from my own personal experience in the corporate world is a little bit of discrimination might be a incorrect word, but certainly when you come into the meeting or you come in for the day and there's the muffin tray and you don't say anything, but you partake in something other than the muffins, sometimes you get a little funny look. What do you do about that?
Yeah, oh yeah, I used to get funny looks all the time, but you know what? I used to laugh back at them, because they'd be like, "What are you eating? Ew, what is that? That's gross." And I'm like, and this is why I feel amazing, and this is why you don't. And so over time, they're all like, "I want to do what she's doing," and that's how the corporate wellness program started. So that happens. People are gonna look at you and say, "Ew, what is that green drink you're drinking?" Or "What is what's in your oatmeal?" But then, you know what? 3 weeks later, people start coming to you saying, "Okay, I want to do what you're doing. What do you do?" I secretly want to know. They're just, it's just a lack of education, and it's an ignorance. So you just keep doing what you're doing, and just joke about it and say, "You know what? You're gonna want to know what I'm eating in a few weeks, because you're gonna feel amazing." And you know what I used to do is I used to bring in little snacks. So for breakfast, instead of their little muffins, I make these amazing like quinoa cookies or apple oat muffins, but they're like real muffins. There's nothing cakey about them at all. I use like whole grains. But it's, again, baby steps. So I would bring them in. I'd be like, "Hey, try this." And they're like, "Oh, they're actually not that bad." I'm like, "No, they're not." So healthy doesn't mean it's gross. And healthy shouldn't be different. It's just, you have to do what's right for you. Exactly. And people start to jump on board.
Well, and healthy also seems like it's healthy that is not sustainable, or healthy that is polarizing, or that turns people off, is also not healthy. So people listening to the podcast may have just heard, I use these quinoa oat muffins and whole grains, and certainly there's a lot of legitimate concern about anti-nutrients and grains and genetic engineering and yada, 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 which is absolutely true. But to be clear, if I have to choose between eating a glazed donut and eating a muffin whose base ingredient is quinoa and apples, I think we can all agree that the muffin with the base of quinoa and apples is a step in the right direction.
Exactly. And personally too, like I hardly eat grains, but if I'm doing, it's kind of like a gateway for people to get off white refined sugar and white refined flours. So if you can do, baby steps, and that's the thing, that's the whole thing from going from A to Z is, you have to meet them where they're at. And so if I can make things for them that they're used to eating, but that's better for them, I'm going to choose that.
Absolutely. And I think that is, I have also in my experience, Peggy, seen that evolution a bit, where you transition from just garbage, just the traditional edible product diet, to more of a eating the way people ate 50 years ago prior to the obesity and diabetes epidemics, which is still potentially eating a cake, but it's like a cake you made at home versus a cake with all this hydrogenated nonsense that you would never put in it, but when you buy it off the shelf in a Hostess wrapper, it's going to have in it. And then as people start to feel better, they're not depressed. A lot of us live in a state of pseudo depression because of our lifestyle. They're not depressed. They have more energy. And when you're not depressed and you have more energy, you start to just have a more positive outlook on life, and you start to want to, you're like, well, this is awesome. I want to celebrate it. I want to do more. I want to create a virtuous cycle. And then you do start to transition to what people would quote unquote call healthy. But it takes that, basically go to normal. And I'm going to define normal as eating food. And food is defined as things you find in nature. So go to normal first and then go to healthy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, totally. And that's the thing. It's not even about, it's not a different lifestyle. It's just real food. It's just real food that's found in nature, period.
And certainly there's all kinds of ways to refine that, but let's ensure we don't turn off the 99% of the population who's not currently enjoying the real foods found in nature, because we're infighting about what the best foods to find directly in nature are.
Yeah, it's true.
Because totally, I mean, if you want to become a professional athlete, then you've got to, customize your training to that level of precision. But if your goal isn't to be a professional athlete, if it's just to be able to go throw the ball with your kids in the backyard, you're not going to have to be as hardcore as someone who has more ambitious goals, right?
Exactly. And what one person's, and I think as a society, a lot of people fall short because they compare themselves to what people, the extreme, that 1%. Mm-hmm. And that's not always attainable. It's just making a small change in your own life. And I think everyone's goal really is just to improve energy. Like, I think that's a big thing, is to reduce stress and improve energy, just feel better, just have more vitality. Exactly. Go, throw a ball with your child, or go play with your grandchildren, or, just have that energy and vitality to live a full life. I think that's what everyone is striving for. And just by eliminating crap found in, fake foods, and just adding more real stuff into your diet, just making those small changes, instead of that granola bar, grab that apple, that is a huge step.
And Peggy, one thing that I wanted to wrap up on, because I think it was an awesome point you made earlier, and that was how laughing with your girlfriends or laughing with your friends can do more for your stress and health than training for a marathon or whatever. And that's sometimes people say, well, what is the right balance, or how do I find that right balance? And I'm curious what you think about the following, Peggy. And that's really the reason we're doing any of this. You mentioned it's to have more energy, and I think something similar. It's to be happy and to feel good and to be able to live the life we want to live. So the question of when have I found my balance is, are your efforts furthering or not furthering your global macro life goals? And like, if you're spending so much time exercising and you're spending so much time preparing food that you're not able to spend time with your family, and what really matters to you is spending time with your family, then you haven't found that balance yet.
Exactly.
And it's different for everyone. You cannot look anywhere except within to find that, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's you can only look within to find that. And it is, taking that moment and asking yourself, what is important to me? What do I want? What do I want? Exactly. What do I need? What does it take for me to be happy? And I think that is the ultimate goal. Really.
And understand that we can't, and we get this in other areas of life, so that we can't have everything. For example, if you say that my goal in life, what is most important to me, is becoming the CEO of the investment banking firm that I work at, I tell you what, that CEO probably doesn't have much else going on in his life or her life, right? So,
and you know what? But even simple things, like I just read this. There was a study recently, and those who prepare dinner will work out less, and those who work out won't prepare dinner to eat healthy. So, there is compromise. There's only so much time that we can do in a day, and we have to realize that we are human, and sometimes we can't do everything. There's little things that we can do. We can carve out. The most important thing is carving out time for yourself and doing what you love, and hopefully it's active, and hopefully it's healthy. But again, ultimately, to make you feel your best.
And not to geek out too much, but Peggy, I'm sure you'll be familiar with this because being in investment banking, you must have a bit of a background in economics. But for those who do want to geek out, it's really the concept of marginal cost versus marginal benefit, right? Like if you're already doing 99 units of energy for your health, applying that one more unit to get you to 100 is probably not going to help you be as happy as applying one more unit to maybe the relationships in your life.
Exactly. Like hug somebody. That, like, there's nothing better than hugs. That's so good for your health. And it's choosing those. It's prioritizing.
I love it. Hugs are great for your health, and it has nothing to do with the number of calories you burn hugging someone.
I know. And you know what? They're calorie free.
Gluten-free hugs. There you go.
Gluten-free, meat-free hug.
Peggy, well, folks, hopefully you've enjoyed our talk with Peggy as much as I have. Obviously, a very well-balanced and intelligent and passionate woman whose new book, The Kitchen Cure, it's just called Kitchen Cures, right?
Yeah, Kitchen Cures, yeah.
Kitchen Cures coming out here shortly, so please do check that out. Please check her website out at Peggy K, and that's with 2 G's, so PEGGYK.com. And again, her name is Peggy Kotsopoulos. Did I get it right?
Yes, got it right again. I'm so proud.
I'm so
impressed.
Peggy, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's show as much as I have. And remember, this week and every week after, eat smarter, exercise smarter, and live better. Talk with you soon.
Wait, don't stop listening yet. If you like the podcast and if there's other ways we can help you, please join us in the Smarter Science of Slim support group, which is freely available at the Smarter Science of Slim website, smarterscienceofslim.com. There you'll find all kinds of free recipes and success stories and just all kinds of fun stuff like how to help your kids go sane and just great community content.
And just one last thing before you go, if you wouldn't mind heading over to iTunes and up onto Amazon.com and leaving us a review, and then going over to Facebook and liking us, we would hugely appreciate it.